Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. In Iran, there's been a show trial of various protagonists of the attempted people power coup, color revolution, velvet revolution, including that Newsweek journalist, various academics. I think that Nobel Prize-winning lady was there, too. They had gone out on a limb, and the color revolution did not go through. You could imagine what would happen. I mean, you can think of the populist appeal of this to the disinherited and the wretched of the earth, right? The agricultural laborers, the working class stiffs over there. Suppose we had a show trial with somebody like George Will or Chris Matthews or Bush, Cheney, God knows what, right? Pelosi being put on trial in a show trial. It's a populist extravaganza. That is the kind of thing that is, it indicates support being built by Ahmadinejad by playing this populist card. There's even speculation on various NPR news outlets that there might be the arrest of Mousavi, the losing candidate of the color revolution, Khatami, the former president, so-called reformer, or indeed Rafsanjani, Mr. Corruption himself. Rafsanjani would be easy to arrest because he's such a thief. Then what happens? Remember that Obama has said everything's got to be wrapped up with Iran by September. No, well, these ultimatums probably not worth too much. Now, we're also approaching the anniversary of the Georgian attack on Russia, an unprovoked aggression. The Orwellian world of the U.S. media, we're told, for example, the New York Times story started off saying, the Georgian tinderbox exploded. Well, no, it was Georgia, the fascist madman Saakashvili, attacking South Ossetia and Russia that started this up. We're expecting now a report from the European Union. The Tagliavini Commission is supposed to give the official European Union version of what happened, and the Russians are cautiously optimistic. RIA Novosti says there may be elements of objectivity in this report, which is now due in September. It's delayed by this new documents that have to be looked at. Anyway, it's clear. Georgia attacked first. Georgia is the aggressor. Biden is an Orwellian. Biden, of course, an imperialist who never saw an imperialist war that he didn't like. There's high tension as the first anniversary of this Georgian act of insane aggression comes around. The U.S., of course, has been rearming Georgia to the teeth, but no matter how much you arm them, it's a toy army. And we've also got Howard Berman, the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, writing in the Washington Post today saying we've got to fulfill the promise of the Rose Revolution. What he's not talking about is that there have been big public demonstrations against fascist madman Saakashvili for months, which have never been never covered in the U.S. media. Much bigger than Iran, right, in terms of public protests. But, of course, you can see how this is done. Ukraine, the other country visited by madman Joe Biden, motormouth warmonger Joe, who also, this is another part of what should be attacked in the Obama administration. He has been in Ukraine now. NATO, the NATO agent Yushchenko, the puppet president of Ukraine, who has almost no support, is now preparing a program for Ukraine to join NATO. And guess what that means? That you will fight and die for that gang of thieves and NATO agents and IMF agents in Ukraine. Not surprising, if you push NATO right up to the Russian border, there's going to be some kind of a response. So as Ukraine says they want to start joining NATO, and Georgia, of course, can't wait with Saakashvili, Russia has put 2 attack subs off the east coast of the United States. Now, these are anti-submarine weapons. They're not nuclear missile-carrying submarines, but that's a response to NATO expansion. So if you don't like submarines and bear bombers, you can imagine how the Russians feel with the U.S. pushing right up to the edge of their territory. Now, inside Afghanistan, the other big crime of Obama that we need to cover, the losses. In July, 44 U.S. dead, 31 NATO, 75 invaders die in the month of July. That is already at full Iraqi levels, 2006 to 2007 levels. McChrystal again says, oh, I can't imagine how bad this is, right? It's much worse than I thought. McChrystal is now privately demanding more troops, but Jones, the NSC director for Barkey, is saying, shut up, that's political poison for us. You can talk about increasing the Afghan forces from 170,000 to 450,000, and the U.S. will pay. Story is that the top Taliban commander has been killed in Pakistan. If so, this may be a blow to the U.S. attempt to destabilize Pakistan using the Taliban over there. There are reports in certain right-wing websites about peace overtures of the Taliban. You heard about that here. That was Christoph Herstel, H-O-E-R-S-T-E-L, or better yet, H-O-umlaut-R-S-T-E-L. And this was something I wrote up for Global Research of Canada, Professor Chosadovsky's website, that the Taliban had tried to use Herstel, who had been the first German television ARD correspondent in Afghanistan during the 1980s, when he had lived with the Taliban for several years. The Taliban tried to use him as a back channel to the Barkey transition team, Obama's transition team, and he was simply rejected, just rejected out of hand, wouldn't even listen, didn't want to know what was happening. So you've got all this going on. The Russian General Staff, through Nogovitsin, the head of the Russian General Staff, says that there is no Russian plan to conquer Tiflis. He says we could have done it back in August of last year. It would have been easy, but we decided not to do it. Now, the other aspect, Putin's pipeline diplomacy. The South Stream pipeline is making tremendous progress. You know, this is two different pipelines. One of them goes across Russia, the Black Sea, and then into Turkey. So this cannot be interfered with by any NATO provocateur states like Georgia or Ukraine or Poland or the various other Eastern European pro-NATO crazies. The South Stream is the Russian one. The Nabucco is the U.S.-British one. So the South Stream is pushing ahead rapidly. This is the only one that actually has natural gas to put in it. So it would be more successful. We just had a meeting of Putin, the Turkish Prime Minister Erdogan, and Berlusconi of Italy to push forward the South Stream pipeline. The construction of this is going to begin. And again, Berlusconi is targeted especially because he is the best one in Europe in terms of East-West trade with Russia. Putin has also rejected the energy charter, so-called, that the European Union and others have tried to push. So that is moving ahead. Nabucco, by contrast, is going nowhere. So it looks like this entire lunatic foreign policy design, right, the Brzezinski plan for the world, in effect, has been failing. Now, let's shift for our final segment, which is going to begin in a second. Let's talk about Weimar. We'll be back in a minute with Weimar.